All right. Welcome to the Monday evening, May 16th Community Development Committee meeting and Committee of the Whole hybrid. I believe that we have Councilmember Mayhew here, and I believe that Councilmember Johnson had indicated he would be absent today, but I want to confirm. I've got a nod of the head of my fellow council member, and I think I remember the same thing. So unless there's an objection, we will excuse Councilmember Johnson. Next item is agenda approval. Any issues with the agenda, Councilmember Mayhew?
Nope.
If we do this right, we should be done in the fastest time ever, but we'll follow the process. Always follow the process. All right, next item are public comments. So I'm gonna open the floor to see here what we got. We got people popping in. Go ahead, and Councilmember Christensen can be made a panelist.
Yep, working on that 1 second.
Yeah, Jason, you're listed as a panelist too, so.
That's actually,
or an attendee, sorry.
Yeah, that's actually Dylan, hold on.
Okay, Dylan's.
Except it won't let me do it.
Piggybacking on your login, that's not, there he is, there's Dylan.
Hey Dylan, why don't you just borrow my laptop and do this rather than mess around with. Dylan's having the issue where I can't promote him for some reason, so I'll just have him use my laptop to present.
Dylan's in the doghouse, huh?
I'm gonna blame Zoom.
All right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and pending no one logging in here on attendees, we'll have no available public comment at this point. So we'll move on to approval of minutes. We have minutes from both the March 7th and May 2nd meetings. I think I saw that the March 7th meeting was amended. No, it wasn't amended. Okay, so we still need that to happen. There was public comment during the March 7th meeting.
I went back and looked, Councilman Losay, and I did not, unless I was listening to the wrong meeting, I don't think I was.
There were comments by Ms. Lux and by Mr. Shield during that meeting.
Yeah, which is my recollection because we discussed it, and then I went back and I'll go back and look again.
I also think that, yeah, that might have been a meeting that's got started late. Because I remember there was one that did that, but I have notes down that both spoke during that meeting. Okay,
well, we can look at that one again. So my apologies.
No worries. So we'll pending any objection, we'll push the meeting, the March 7th. Getting my months mixed up here. March 7th to the next meeting. Councilor Mayhew, any other comments on the March 7th one to pass along?
No, I wasn't at that meeting, I don't believe.
You're shown as present.
I have no other comments for it.
And then so May 2nd meeting, I don't have any comments on May 2nd. That one accurate to my recollection. So
I have no comments either.
All right, we'll approve the May 2nd minutes next time in council chambers of City Hall. I guess I'll get that one signed, which could be as early as Wednesday or Thursday this week. So we'll figure that out. All right, on to the next item. First order of business discussion, the Kitty Academy sign deviation. Jason, you want to do an introduction here, or Dylan?
Yeah, I'll let Dylan come up and do it. Dylan might just scoot over to it. So also I'll share, I just wanted to note for the record that we have, you can see the mayor's on the Zoom. She's here in council chambers as well. And we have 2 representatives from Kitty Academy here tonight in addition. So slide over.
Excellent. Welcome.
Okay. Jason, do you have the?
That's not.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, share screen.
We get down to it, and then I will correct. So, as has been reviewed before. Typically, these types of deviations for signs up on the ridge. There, I'm just getting to the screen here proper. Okay, so I pulled up the staff report to better kind of track the process of how the sign deviations work. The general structure of a sign permit for the ridge is that if it falls within a certain size, maximum and minimum, then it's permittable without a request for deviation. And the way that's calculated is through a series of equations that take into consideration the type and quality of the sign, as well as the location. If it's on a corner, it has like a bit of a bonus. A couple of the details like that. You put it into the equation with the store frontage and a couple things like that. You get the result, which will tell you what the maximum allowable signage is for that frontage of that building. And it also includes some details about the maximum letter height for the, usually it's the first letter, the capital letter that is for the document or for the sign. In this case, we have a deviation because the building is such that a deviation has been requested from a occupant on the next building over, and that the building itself is larger generally than many of the other buildings in the Snoqualmie Ridge development area. So for all the commercial uses in the area. In addition, the original IGA, I believe, also went through a similar process to this and received their deviation request, which was for the entire frontage. So where we are at with this one is the Kitty Academy request for a deviation to increase the size of the sign on their portion of the building that previously was the IGA, but now represents roughly half of the building. It's a bit of a fractions game there, but it's pretty darn close to half. Split with the Dollar Tree. There's two smaller tenants in the building, the Starbucks and the Positive Ally. They don't represent a significant portion of the building. It's predominantly the Dollar Tree and Kitty Academy, and they're very even to each other. The request for a deviation in this case is specifically a request for about a 5 square feet increase over the allowable per that equation that I mentioned before. You could track my math here if this is something you'd like to do. In addition, a slight increase in the size of the lettering from 20 inches maximum to a 23.6 maximum. So that's the kind of like how we got here, where we're going, kind of space. And I want to scroll down to the sign itself just for clarity of what we're talking about. So they call here that the facade face is 24 square feet. Double checking this, this is actually not the facade's frontage. This is just the, I don't know, the protrusion of the wall that kind of break up the facade. It's much longer than this. It's I have it up in the further equations. I go back to it, but needless to say, it's more than this. Just an error on the model here. But otherwise, this is to scale as best you can, considering you're superimposing a sign from a perspective and a photo and all that kind of stuff. If I remember correctly, we have some further details that show exactly the height of the letters and the style and shape of the sign. And this is partially used for the building official to make sure that the building permits are allowable. And if I recall correctly, there's an additional sign that's part of the monument that's on the parkway. This is, as you can see, it's right below the Dollar Tree one. A deviation is required for this portion of the package, the sign package as well. And then, if I can, also for reference, this is a finished example of the type of sign that they're proposing here. The 2D renders sometimes are lackluster in terms of demonstrating the quality of the sign once it's completed. This kind of shows that popped out acrylic look with backlighting. I requested it from them, but we often see that signage is difficult to visualize, and this is a better way of kind of understanding what the final look and feel will be. This is also in part why we can conclude that it's a group 2 type sign, which again is related to that quality metric that we have in our sign code for the ridge developments. there's quite a few categories, and so trying to find exactly the one that matches it best. This is a group 2, more likely than not, because of its characteristics and style and quality level. I want to pause there, and I'm happy to go scroll back up to the sign itself, but I want to leave room in case you have any questions for the applicants or myself.
Well, thanks, Dylan. I'm going to we'll let the applicants have a response should we have any major concerns here. In that sense, obviously they provided a good representation of what they intend to do. I'm going to ask one question up front first. I want to make sure I understand exactly where this is mounted, because it has been some time since the IGA sign has been there. Is this the same location that the IGA sign was in previously?
Hi, it's Jason here. So IGA formerly had 2 signs. So if you recall, there are 2 of these bump out entry facade areas, one to the right of where you're seeing on the screen here. That location currently has a sign for the Dollar Tree. And so this is the other one, the one which would be if you're facing the building, the one on the left is Kitty Academy. So IGA had their former, I don't recall exactly how big it was, it's about 150 square feet, I want to say.
Yeah, it was the larger one of their signs was in this location, because it's at when the drive, it's kind of when you drive in, you see it. It's not centered on that drive, but it's near there.
Correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure I understood the location, because I knew the dollar sign was in Dollar Tree was on the other one. Councilor Mayhew, do you have any comments, or I'd like to hear your comments on this?
Yeah, I have sort of 2 things. The first is, can we just scroll to the monument sign for a moment? So I'm just curious, I know there's a 4th business in that structure. Is our understanding that 4th business will not ask for any space on this monument sign or any additional monument sign, or sort of, I guess I'm trying to understand why that fourth business is not appearing here, and whether that approving this would mean that we are then perhaps going to get a new request for something for the 4th business in terms of this monument sign kind of idea.
Sure, this is Jason again. Positive Valley is the other tenant in that building. Their signs were approved. I don't recall exactly when their signs were approved, but they at the time did not request to have their to have anything on their monument sign. Their frontage also faces Snoqualmie Parkway, and so I believe that they would not necessarily be a good candidate for deviation for the monument signage. Whereas Dollar Tree and Kitty Academy do not have frontage that directly faces Snoqualmie Parkway. The Starbucks has been there for a number of years, and so I can't speak to that deviation, unfortunately. But at this point, there's no request from Positive Valley to have their sign on this monument. Should they request it, we would process it through the deviation process. And like I said, because that particular business has frontage that faces the parkway, I'm not so sure that we would necessarily want to approve such a deviation because for that reason.
Okay, and then my only other comment was with regard back to we could go back to the wall sign. Is that right terminology?
Yes. You want this one or the one that's super?
Yeah, just a little bit more where it's sort of superimposed on the building.
Yeah.
So with regard to the lettering sizes and so forth, I don't have any concern. It seems a reasonable request and consistent with the other signs. The thing I'm trying to understand is whether this is actually what this would look like. This is similar to what the other 2 businesses with signs facing this picture, this overlay looks like what the other 2 signs look like. But then when I saw the sign type down below, it seems like in fact, this would be a large rectangle taking up most of that wall. I'm trying to understand, maybe I don't understand what is actually what this sign would look like. But if it is in fact a large rectangle, I'm wondering what that size looks like and what that would actually look like here.
Yeah, I gotta admit, when I started working with signs, I had a quite a crash course on sign terminology, and it is way more complicated than you would think it would be for something that seems simple. The sign as it's shown here does not have that back panel. It would be, scroll to the, here's a side view to kind of show how the panels. So each of these get pin mounted, each of these sections gets pin mounted to the wall. Hence, scroll up here, the pin mounted letters. Then you could see on some of these other designs that they have to add the boxing, so to speak. The design as it's shown is what we would have. It's essentially the same kind of concept, but smaller. The pin letters are more tightly wrapped around the lettering.
So to address your question, excuse me, directly, Councilmember Mayhew, the intent here is to provide the letters as shown. There would, there's not the boxing, or except on the lower part of the educational childcare sub portion has, of course, the boxing around it. But the rest of it is the channel letters, or however you want to term them, as shown, and they would be directly mounted to the to the wall. As you can see from this, they're it's kind of connected. The K scrolls into the I, scrolls into the D, and connects to the D. So it's functionally one thing, but you're not going to see that rectangular backing behind that.
All right, so we would see something roughly equivalent to this, what we're seeing here. In other words, we would see the brick through there just as we do with the other two businesses. It's just the letters would look more or less like this, but it wouldn't be a giant rectangle. It would be something similar to what we're looking at here. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Well, in that case, Councilman, let's say that this seems appropriate and consistent to me in size and nature to what the other businesses have there. And I don't have any objections or concerns. It seems appropriate to me.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Mayhew. I felt the same way. Maybe my background in building design, I understood the fabrication of the fast signs diagram on the next page, and knew how they were doing it because I've seen it that way before. But it is, that representation. I actually want to thank the applicant for having a representation like this, because oftentimes someone will just stick it on there and not see the see-through. And so we want to just make sure that that's something that that's understood, that's what's expected. That's what this approval will be for, is a sign that has the see-through to the brick. The question I do have is on these letters are then listed as being backlit, kind of a halo effect. The one thing I'm concerned about is any spillover light, because it's, the example that are shown like that's a box. That's a different sort of look, because there's a box around it. And so what I'm worried about is the spillover light that it's going to be shining, and those die cast pin mounted portions then should have some sort of return to keep that light from glaring out the side. Because you will see this from the side, especially from the parkway and the parking lot. So I just want to confirm that as well. The example, that's the reason I'm doing that is because the example that's shown implies that it's on a solid background. Same question from Councilmember Mayhew, that it looks like it could be on a solid background. So we want to just make sure of that.
Depending on how you want to go with that, I can either try to get an additional imagery or something to that extent to kind of include in the package and confirm either through Jason, and he can confirm that it's an appropriate amount of light leakage or something to that effect, or we can include it in a condition of the deviations. That's what I also suggest, is we include it for us to review after the fact to make sure that it is not an excessive amount of light or light leakage.
Yeah, because now I read this again, and now I'm going to go back to the previous question too, is because it indicates that there's a, on the page that has the representation, it indicates they're pushed through letters, and so the letters are pushing through. I'm trying to understand what the letters are pushing through if they're die-cast letters, because then it says the next line down is on the next page up. It says 60.1 inch high by 118 inch wide white aluminum backer. So now it's got me thinking, okay, is this actually, am I reading it now that there is a white, there's a solid white backer behind this and the letters are pushing through? So I guess I need some clarification here.
So you can kind of see in that, I'll admit, this is always complicated, but this with the white part behind the lettering here, that the red, for instance, let's look at this K. You have a white panel that's kind of like a slightly wider version of the same lettering. Mm-hmm. So that is the white aluminum backer that the red acrylic pokes out of in a similar way to the pictures in the lower one, the Oregon Clinic, or something like that.
Okay, so the colors of the kitty and the colored portion of the academy in gray, and the black portion of the hat are pushed through so that the light is spilling between the K and the aluminum backer.
Correct. What you're seeing with those dimensions at the top, Councilmember will say, is that if you drew a box or a rectangular box around the entire sign, those are the dimensions of it. That's not the way we measure signs, certainly. I think the earlier renderings did have something like that, which wasn't going to work.
Yeah, no, I've used this methodology before, so I understood what it was. But I just want to make sure we're being clear that granting approval is for a sign that looks like what is in this representation.
Yes. Sorry, I was nodding.
So I think I think what's throwing me off is that it's the fabrication detail on the next page down is the one that's throwing me off, because it does imply that there's a solid backer behind it. So I think what I'm going to ask is if we can get that clarification to make sure that we are not approving a sign that has a solid backdrop, but it has the cutout letters, and either add it to the conditions and we go forward with that, or get an example to include from the manufacturer. And then then we can move it forward.
We could definitely do that. I think the project applicant could respond to. Is that
that's Puneet, myself, Puneet, and thank you for considering this and looking me out. And yes, I can confirm that it will be a cutout. It won't be like the one that you see in the back now, but in the back with the back rectangle basically. So these are the cutouts of the letters.
Okay.
If you scroll down, basically two more slides, I think. One more, please. One more. So when you see the work clinic, it's a rectangle and the letters are pushed into the rectangle. It's not like that. It is more like the work clinic is mounted on the wall itself, basically, for us. So it will be the PD Academy without the minus the rectangle.
Okay. So I think I just need to see Dylan some language addressing that to make sure it's clear that those are see-through letters, not on a solid backdrop. And I don't have any issues with the other recommendations.
Thank you. Thank you. So we'll work on that, Chair, and get you some official confirmation and updated some updated condition language about the lighting, like you asked for, and we can discuss that later this week at your convenience.
Yeah, I would need to get to it later this week. I will be traveling and out of touch for a couple weeks after this one. So
understood.
Okay. Anything else, Councilor Mayhew?
Nothing else.
All right. Well, I don't know if we met my goal of being the fastest community development committee meeting in the history of community development committee meetings.
Last one ended at 6:37, so you got 9 minutes to beat.
I remember when we had that in like 7 minutes or something in the past. So we've got a couple upcoming items that we'll get to down the road, and also then at some point we'll have the city council priorities to discuss at the same time. So I don't believe we have any additional business to discuss. Any objection to adjourning the meeting?
No objection.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you. Have a good night.